And we are back with a bang. Back again. Back another week. Back to talk about one of the best shows on television, on HBO, of course, which keeps on just delivering another one. Shout out to DJ Khaled. Shout out to the boy. My name is Jibs, and I am joined by my friend Jerry
Hi guys.
to talk about Barry, one of the best shows on TV right now. Um, Season 4. I always fuck this up for some reason. Season 4, episode 4. And yeah, called It Takes a Psycho, which was written by Taufik Kolade, Alec Berg, and Bill Hader, and obviously directed by Bill Hader. And yeah, this is kind of what we're going to talk about today. I really enjoyed the episode. Kind of, um, forgot that Barry was only half an hour episodes, and I was like, oh, I mean, this is sort of like such a nice, smooth watch. And I guess we'll talk about that. But anyway, Jerry, how's it going? How are
No,
you?
good. It's good. I'm good. I was away for a few days and I'm back in London now. I'm actually going back. I'm going again tomorrow, but it's weird. But it's been a cool time. Wait, did you binge the first three episodes or the first four episodes? Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
had to.
probably why you forgot. Like for
Yeah,
us, it's been a constant reminder that it's only 30 minutes of content every week.
yeah, it's been one of because I've been kind of busy with exams and everything. This might actually be my first episode I'm recording after
Yeah.
post exams, and
Oh, of any show.
of any show, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm sort of thrown back into the fire. Banker was like, no, no holiday for you. Straight back into it. You something. I'm never gonna say the word
I'm dead.
on the podcast. But yeah, Barry. And before we actually get to the episode, let's do some housekeeping. Guys, obviously don't forget to rate, review, subscribe into the Popcorn for Dinner podcast on all our platforms. We are around on Spotify where you can, review, drop us your ratings, give us your comments. We're about on Apple Podcasts, which is the most glitchy podcast app, but whatever works for you works for you. We are on YouTube where you can see our faces at the moment. We need to give you that video content, show us our respective trims or our hats that we're using to cover our trims. Um, we're everywhere, man. On Twitter, you can follow us on the Popcorn for Dinner Pod on Instagram, Facebook, the lot. Obviously, you can comment on all our posts. Drop us a DM. Obviously, drop us a DM for other reasons if you want to, but not judging or anything.
What do you mean other reasons?
Listen, we're living in a cost of living crisis, man. But we need to help each other out one way or the other. But that is not the point. That is not the point. But point is, please, yeah, subscribe. We do have a lot of things coming up. I should mention actually, we still have Succession going on, another HBO affiliate going on. We still have Rain Dogs. I think The Mandalorian is still going on as well. I've been so out of the loop with like TV shows, man. And we do have some exciting stuff coming up as well, like some really, really cool shit coming up. I don't want to spoil for you guys, but yeah, you guys should watch this space because yeah, we are cooking right now with some hot butter right now. I'll tell you guys that. So yeah, let's get on to the podcast.
Yeah. No.
So okay, Jerry, what are your first thoughts, your initial thoughts on this episode?
The very first thing is, should we take it personally that Cristobal's first few lines, he goes, "This is what happens when you hire two guys with podcasts."
I literally, gosh,
Because
I don't
back
know if
here,
if I
go
had
on.
to be like annoyed or amused by that comment because I
No,
was
I
like,
loved
excuse me.
it. I was dying of laughter because Becky and I talked about it last episode, and we just and then Cristobal just says, "I'm just like, yep, fair enough, fair enough. Like everything that can go wrong will go wrong."
Yeah, that was incredible. That was so self aware, but just incredibly funny as well. Attacking all the
But
podcasters, man.
But yeah, I think this episode we were talking about how last one was funny, and this one was funny too for like a good few minutes, but it got very dark very quickly. And
Very, very dark, man. In different ways as well.
yeah, I'm still like taken in some of the things that we've had to survive with this episode.
Who do you think had the roughest episode? Like, who do you think came out of that episode the worst?
Cristobal. As in, when you
Really?
say the worst, do you mean who had the worst outcome or who came out in the worst shape?
Who had the worst outcome?
So that's what I'm saying. I think the worst outcome, Cristobal for sure, but the person who is probably in the worst shape, sans Barry, is probably Jean at this point. Maybe even
What
I
about?
don't know. Maybe even Sally.
I was gonna say Fuchs.
Oh,
Everyone's just everyone is just losing, man.
every single person.
So funny how we just all had like different answers, and you can kind of argue your case for each one. So,
Yeah, we
I
can do
mean,
that.
who should we? I guess we could start with Chris Jean Kuzner then.
No, before we even go there, I have a question
Mhm.
for you. And it's like,
Yeah,
at what point did you realize, okay, we're not going to see Barry for most of this episode until maybe like the end?
good question. Yeah, um, it was kind of cool to just let for Bill Hader to just kind of let the other characters do their own thing, to let the
Hmm.
other characters cook. And I mean, it kind of worked because the whole or the background of the episode was Barry has just escaped and he's let loose, so it sort of played into the entire mystique of where is Barry and everything.
Yeah.
And all the other characters are basing their actions on, what if Barry turned up today, and the whole mystique of Barry's missing and everything. So I did like that. I did
Yeah.
like the fact that other people got their chance to shine.
Same. And then I found it like, because in when we were recording the episode 3 one, Banky asked how we would feel if Barry died. And
Hmm.
while we didn't conclude on that, the one thing we did conclude on was there's enough content and there's enough storytelling with all the other characters that we can have episodes without Barry. And that's basically what we got this time. So that was one of the first things I picked up on as well.
Yeah, it was. I really like episodes. I just like episodes where you know just out of the ordinary. Like remember that Ron Lily episode where it was basically
Yeah.
I still don't know what the hell that was, but
Do you
I
think
was
this episode is up there with episodes like that?
um I don't I don't think so. You might have to ask me in about another 3 weeks to see,
Fairs.
let it marinate a little bit and everything. But I feel I do like episodes like these where it's not out of the ordinary, but it's other people. It's a bit different to the others in that sense. But yeah, who should we start with? Because I mean, we'll definitely end with NoHo Hank because he had a pretty rough episode as well. I guess we'll start with Fuchs then.
Okay, start with the simplest. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not really kind of all he did this episode was scream and get beaten up,
Yeah,
which is just yeah, Fuchs gone.
I guess they're
So
gone.
what's his deal then?
I don't
What do you
even
think?
know
What do
at
you make
this
of Fuchs
point
right now?
because, like, I thought the scene where he comes out and everyone's having lunch and they look at him. I thought there would be some sort of acknowledgement, like, "Oh, you really didn't give up on your guy, so we can trust you if if push comes to shove," and he would get some respect for that in prison. But there was just no acknowledgement. Like literally,
Hmm.
they look at him, he starts eating, and literally everyone just goes back to their own. So it's like
Carries on with their own
exactly
thing.
it's
Yeah.
like those scenes in Miss Maisel when Joe comes downstairs to the downstairs of his club, and everyone pauses, and once he goes, he just continue. Like it's
Hmm.
and at the same yes, I don't know what to make of it. Like everyone in prison is aware of the situation between Fuchs and Barry,
Hmm.
and all the guards, all the staff think that Fuchs is somehow involved in Barry's escape. Although they also think he was responsible for sending assassins. So they want to
Yeah.
know, at least you know something about Barry, so tell us what you know. And he's not giving that
Hmm.
up, even if realistically he's not giving up because he doesn't know. It's like they're really challenging us. Like, are you sure you don't want to feel sorry for Fuchs? Like, I don't know.
How do you feel? Do you feel sorry for Fuchs?
I still hate Fuchs, but like,
I still hate Fuchs as well.
but this episode, you know when okay, you've punished the guy now. He's in prison. That's
Hmm.
about it. There's nothing left. There's no
It's like it's
joy.
enough,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. There's no joy in that anymore. Or maybe there is. Because the thing is, I still don't trust Fuchs. I still don't see a thing where after this, Fuchs now has this huge redemption arc where we all like, I don't like, I just think that's where he is. People are reacting to the fact that this is what they think he's done, and
Hmm.
now he just has to live with it. Or we'll see where he ends up next episode because maybe something will be picked up from that launch scene that they just haven't had time to explore yet.
Yeah, we do have 4 episodes left. It's worth mentioning. So I mean, that's what 2 hours. Or I mean, to be fair, the final episode might be something a bit longer. So we do have a bit of
Mm.
time for that redemption arc. He's already kind of hit his lowest right now. So we shall see what. And he's still in prison as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Would he break out? Would he break a deal with the FBI going forward to get himself out of there? Because I mean, you'd expect that he just wouldn't stay in jail, would you?
Yeah, like if Barry made it out, then perhaps Fuchs as well would somehow at some point make it out too.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like episode 3 ended with a bang. Like I was not expecting that at all. Like I knew it was coming, but I was still like, oh shit, like this is pretty insane. And obviously, seeing all the cameo from Fred Armisen was pretty interesting as well
Yeah,
as the shitty assassin. But you guys, I mean, spoke about that last week, so
yeah.
yeah, I guess that this episode was sort of the aftermath of all of that. And yeah, Barry escaped. Um,
I just realized,
let's move on to
Banky is Chewie. Cause
Banky's what?
like if they hired two guys with a podcast, right? One of them died in episode 3. For the rest of
Yeah.
that show, if Ernesto decides to go on with his podcast, he's gonna have a new partner. Banky is not here today, and you're here. That makes me Ernesto.
But I don't know. I think you'd make a good podcaster slash
You
assassin on the
think I would
side.
make a good assassin? What are you trying to say?
Listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, I just said one thing, and
Fair
that was
enough.
it. But
Fair enough.
take it as a compliment, or don't take it. Take it however you want to take it. But
We'll see. We'll see. But just don't hire two guys with a podcast, guys.
Gene,
Gee,
Gene.
wow.
I really don't like this guy, man. He's been really ticking me off the entire season.
I find him
Like as you can,
hilarious, but I felt
it's
almost sorry for him this episode.
it's like I mean, it's because of him, like that guy, the Vanity Fair guy, um, Lon. I think that's what his name
Yeah.
is speaking like German now. I was like, where the hell did that come from? And like he's been sent to Big Bear, which is kind of like middle of nowhere in
Mm.
California, to take shelter and everything. And he's fucking paranoid, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's freaking
Understandably.
out. What do you think of Gene in this episode?
I think Gene, I don't even know where to begin because like everyone's responding to the news of Barry differently. And the one thing you pick up in this episode is people kind of at their worst selves. Maybe because even
Hmm.
everything they see wrong in Barry, they like Loki somehow they kind of adopt them to. Um, Gene, at the time that he's being dumped, doesn't know that Barry has escaped, but he is still, because he wants his story or whatever, he still feels abandoned by the people
Hmm.
that are close to him in a sense. He's asking
Hmm.
questions like, "Oh, can I do this? Can I do that?" It's like, bro, can you just keep quiet and don't destroy the case for now? But I get it at the same, like someone like Gene, that's going to be incredibly difficult to do. It's just
Hmm.
the thing that I found, I mean, it's typical Gene, like the scene where he shoots, and he runs away, and he feels like he's done something positive for himself. When that realization hits him, when he like, it'll probably break him. but I'm also wondering
Hmm.
why he didn't check the body. And that's when I'm like, Gene, don't be stupid. Like it's fair enough that you were jumpy and you did something incredibly stupid by just shooting without actually seeing who's there, but you've also run away and you've not even checked to see if the person that you think you shot is dead. Like you're like fuck you and run away. Like that doesn't help. And it's one of those things you can't expect Gene to really think with sense in a situation like that. But Gene really expected Barry to come in through the front door. That was dumb.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you're kind of. I do agree with you there on how this is going to. I think this is probably destroy him. Like this will probably lead him to how he felt after his I forgot the woman's name, but
Janice?
his, yeah, after she died, and when he was just completely distraught. But this time he hasn't got his son to help him out. He doesn't really have anybody to help him out this time,
Yeah.
so he is pretty much screwed as
Yeah, but do
well.
you think Leo's dead though? Because it looked like the bullet was a right shoulder thing as opposed to something. Like, I mean, if the problem is Gene didn't go check, so he might bleed out there. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it might not have been a fatal shot, but because like he didn't
yeah,
check, then that might have done it for him. Or I mean, it could have been to the chest. We didn't really see it exact like, the exact location of where
the
the
first
bullet
one we
landed.
didn't
Right?
see, but the second one, like, I think that was definitely a right, like chest
Mm,
shoulder
kind of right
area. It could be
shoulder-ish.
a
Yeah,
long, who knows? But it looked like a shoulder
yeah,
area. Um,
little cliffhanger
but
or
will
something.
Leo forgive
And
him?
I mean, to be fair though, to be fair though, like it did, we did the episode kind of insinuated that he might have died, but we really don't know. I guess we have to
Yeah,
sort of kind
it's
of
one of
wait.
those things. It's possible that he did, and he would somehow blame Barry, but he would also blame himself, and that's
Hmm.
why I think it would break him. But yeah, that's where you start to feel sorry for him because you understand exactly why Gene would be in this position, but
Hmm.
Gene, you're also in this position because you are Gene.
Yeah, and it's pretty, um, it's pretty easy to see how like how he'd kind of just if he's dead now, how yeah, it'll all kind of lead to like him sort of going ape shit on Barry eventually later on, which would be yeah. Kuzma man, you were having it so good, and you've just sort of fucked it up now, haven't you? Tough, tough, tough.
Too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could kind of go from Kuzno to Sally.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, pretty interesting episode for Sally, don't you think? Because basically she has taken over, or she, emotionally abused. She used the Kuzno method of teaching, and publicly abused, emotionally abused students to, bring the acting performance out of her, and the other students are like, this is not cool. But you kind of see them, they're still together. They're still, she's literally tutoring her, in her acting role. What do you make of Sally this episode?
Sally, I don't know. Because Sally, you know how Sally has some. There are parts of Sally that are just like Jean in that she has that
Hmm.
innate desire to be a star. And she's coming to terms
Hmm.
with the fact that, like Jean, she has to teach instead because no one would work with her for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Um,
Hmm.
so much so that it's even beyond who she is being the entitled, Um, it it's even in a movie like this, I guess a Shira knockoff or something, but like I don't know, like
Hmm.
she still can't be hired because she doesn't have the look and all those anything you could possibly think about, like, oh, we're doing some commentary on Hollywood. Although I've seen some reviews where people are like, "Oh, yeah, they're doing that commentary with the whole idea of the person who made Coda made this film." I'm thinking, yeah, that's funny, but at the same time, is there anything wrong with that? Like, shouldn't directors, if they want, be able to make you know Oscar winners and like throwaway films that they like to make at the same time? Like, that's fine. But the point is,
Yeah.
Sally's.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting point that you bring up because I had that notes down as well. It was a bit too on the
Mm.
nose on how all these auteurs and artistic filmmakers are kind of being nudged into doing more franchise movies for studios and everything. It's that sort of thing where studios say one for me, one for you.
Yeah.
So if if you want to do your own artistic vision, you have to do
Okay, I guess if you look at it with,
Transformers
I
50
guess if
for
you look at
us.
it that way, where the artists, those artists themselves don't want to do those movies, which is what it seems like this director falls into, then yes, that probably is valid, like criticism to make
Hmm.
about Hollywood. But I was looking at it more like, at the end of the day, there are probably some directors who would want to, who wouldn't mind, and I guess yeah, if the opportunity is there for people to do whatever they want, then great. But if it's a thing where it's like, yeah, one for me, one for you, then there we have a problem.
Hmm.
But the reason I bring that up is because
Yeah.
Sally has pretty much always been the character that they use to sort of put this magnifying glass to Hollywood, whether it's with Banshee or let me not say any names, but like you should probably like scribble that last part out. But whether it's Banshee or any other um streaming network or whatever you try to parody at that point. Sally has
Hmm.
always been the character that has been used for things like that, and she's in that state now. She's in this point in her career where she can help other people, and honestly, she's not bad
Hmm.
at it. She just wants it for
Hmm.
herself. She goes as far as trying to take it for herself when she realizes this girl is not like doing the role. But even
Yeah, that was pretty
of
shitty. I'm
course
not
it
gonna lie. I
was.
was like, oh,
When
it's
she
pretty
started speaking, I was
sneaky.
like, Sally, no, Sally, no, don't do this. And I was almost thinking it might work, and I was like, I can't believe it, but like, I'm glad it didn't. But it just took Sally
Yeah.
further into where she is now. This is where I'm thinking. This is where I'm coming now. All the characters are dealing with the news of Barry. At this point, Sally doesn't know, but when Sally finds out, Sally seems to be depressed at this point, just realizing that Hollywood has defeated her. So it's like, is
Hmm.
Barry let's go? Is that like a let's get out of here? Or it's obviously it to me it doesn't seem like a let's go, like I don't want you here, I'm gonna take you to the police. It seems more like, okay, Hollywood has defeated me. I don't want to be here anymore because people won't take me for what I am. People will only take me in a certain way that I
Hmm.
don't want to be. So I'm just gonna leave.
And it's worth noting, like in one of the previous episodes, it might have been episode one or two, when she went to see him in jail, and she was like, I felt, or I think she alluded to saying that she felt protected while she was
Mm-hmm.
around him. And, you know, it's like she kind of knows the shitty things that Barry did at the end of the day, but she still she still feels safe around him, which is quite ironic, but makes a bit of sense as well. And I think it's like you just mentioned, like there's nothing else in Hollywood for her. I mean, to be fair, if you kind of bring it back to when she was trying to snatch that role um, out of her
Yeah.
students' grasp just there and then, I was kind of like, hold on, is she actually doing this? Oh, she is doing this. She actually is doing this. Then thankfully, Sean Hayder was like, yeah, can you do this? That was amazing, but can we have her do this? And I was like, okay, thank God she'd actually want
That's
this
what I, that's
time.
exactly how I saw it too. It's like, thank God it didn't happen, but how is that going to affect the relationship with her teacher, well, so with her student who didn't even realize that's what Sally was doing, but is like, can you teach me
Yeah.
that? Like she's essentially the way Sally was to Jean and to a certain extent Barry. Sally saw them as teachers and was willing to put herself through anything, and maybe Sally's even
Hmm.
seen herself in the student that way. I can't remember her name, but like I remember the name of the movie for whatever reason. But like she's seen herself in her that way because she can't see that Jean would have done the same thing to her when she was Jean's student. In the same way that this
Hmm.
student isn't seeing that that's what Sally is doing to her. She's still like, "You're amazing. I want to learn from you. Teach me."
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, to be fair though, Sally has been the only one to bring some kind of emotional acting response from her. So I guess she's doing
Fast,
something right.
fast.
And there was a point. There was a point in I think she asked a student to think about the last time you sacrificed yourself, and she said, "My last boyfriend was 5'3", and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what an attack on all the short kings!" Because that was just
It's
not
one of those
necessary,
things
man.
where
Not
you remember
necessary.
that this is still a comedy because just earlier, like when she left the stage, when she left the scene, you could like I
Hmm.
remember thinking she's so tall, and it's like it's very clear. Like they made sure you saw how tall she was just to deliver that line, and it was gold to me. Well, it was perfect at the time on the second watch anyway. But it was like because at first I was
Hmm.
thinking really that's your sacrifice, but also from Sally's perspective she's like okay, the character is going through something where she has to sacrifice herself, so think about the time where you had to sacrifice yourself, and I'm like Jesus Christ, Sally, what do you
Is
like?
that it? I mean, whatever works for you, and to bring out the acting responsible.
Like I'm
But
sure you
come
can
on,
say
man,
something better.
come on. Oh man, I guess that was the first thing that came to her mind. And yeah, I mean, what did you feel about this season? We've had quite a couple of cameos, haven't we?
Yeah, but I'm usually not the person that recognizes them until someone tells me. I'm just like, oh,
I mean, like, to be fair, like last week it was you couldn't miss Guillermo del Toro,
no,
could you? That was the most obvious one, and I think
yeah,
the Fred Armisen character. I think he was a bit. He did a bit of work, but if you look closely, you can recognize him. And Sean Hayder. I don't think a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people watch Coda, but I don't think a lot of people know the actual
yeah.
director of Coda. So, I mean, who was the last acting celebrity you met?
Met as in on the show.
No, no, just in
Act.
general.
I don't think I've met music, but like
Have you
acting, no,
not?
I don't. I don't. I met Smino last night actually.
Hmm. To be fair, you probably have met
Oh yeah, a
more
lot of them.
musical
Like
acts,
usually
haven't
after
you?
shows and stuff like
You
that.
go to a
Yeah,
lot of
but
gigs.
yeah, I met Smino and Monty Buka last night, and that was pretty cool.
Nice, nice. Um, I mean, I guess it's Noho Hank left in it, and I think he was the big winner of the episode,
Or
wasn't he?
loser.
He was like the main meal. I mean, he's treating the gang to a good R&R, a good shindig session, and at the start of the episode, he's properly stressed. Is it because he knows Barry has escaped, or because he thinks Barry's
I
dead?
think it's because of what he knows he has to do. Because they did say Barry escaped from prison, and then that's when Cristobal delivers the. That's what
Hmm.
happens when you hire two guys on a podcast, and Cristobal is trying to get him to like just enjoy what he's built here and forget about street. You know, Cristobal, our little life coach, is like, forget about all your worries. Just we'll figure all that out later. But he's also kind of
Yeah.
worried because he knows what he's signed up for to deal with the fact that Barry. Obviously, we don't know this at the time, but it does feel
Hmm.
like he's stressed about Barry until we really see why he's stressed. Like he
Until
is because he what he knows that
yeah,
he's going to do, which potentially will also break Cristobal, and he doesn't know how to address that.
yeah, and he had this like I mean, it was a really good performance from the guy who plays Noah. I
Anthony
always
Carrigan.
forget his name. Yeah, and just I mean, kind of see that like
Hmm.
conflicted look on his face all through the episode, and he was really, really selling
I
it.
think one of the things I picked up, sorry to
And
cut you there again, is
no,
like
Karen, Karen.
so last episode, Barry and Hank have this, I guess, this big rift, which is still one sided because it's really just Hank realizing how Barry has seen him all along. Um,
Yeah.
but it still brings us back to like season two, where Hank is convinced that him and Barry are the same. And I was picking up this
Mm-hmm.
episode in that scene where Cristobal and Hank are conversing, that really that wasn't just an off comment. There's a lot of similarities in the way Barry and Hank operate, particularly with the people that they claim they love. Even down to some things in the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue that I put down, but we'll get to that. We'll get to those as well. Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
Hank goes through a lot. But again, my focus was on Cristobal because I just felt like it was mean to have Cristobal. I mean, it made sense visually and also just from a storytelling perspective to have Cristobal survive what he survived mid episode, only to still meet the end that he did, which is why
Hmm.
I think like he had the worst time. Like he had, yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. I mean, I was when they had that big argument, right? Because Cristobal was
Mm.
obviously really upset about how Hank has eliminated all the henchmen because he's got Chechen muscle and support now, and because Cristobal is like he's trying to go legit, and Hank is a bit like, "Are you out of your mind?" And it's like you kind of forget because I was like, I mean, you're a criminal, aren't you, Cristobal? Like, what are you saying?
He's a criminal that was a
But
criminal because he was in. I don't know. I don't even want to preempt uh his motivations. But even when we were introduced to him, he feels like I said. I always see him as this life coach, this "Hi guys, let's be friends" type of person, which is the persona he gives. But usually, when you see a show like that, you think that that person has that persona in the front and they're like ruthless. But there was never any point in
mhm,
Christopher's journey that he felt like they portrayed him as ruthless. The whole time they portrayed him as, yes, like of course he is. He's the head, yeah. He's the head of
happy
a
and
crime family,
kind.
yes. Well, kind of, because Elena was still there at the time. But there was
Yeah, yeah.
that, but he's still this happy guy, kind of like Hank as well. Hank was also, in a sense,
Hmm.
soft, according to Barry and a bunch of other people. They kept calling Hank soft, and Hank, which is part of Hank's motivation here, Hank is showing that he's not soft like everyone else thinks, and he can do the hard things because that's what it's going to take to
Hmm.
lead um, and be the number one guy in LA.
Hmm. And yeah, I mean that was a really good kind of back and forth
Mhm.
between both of them. And you sort of think, are they actually breaking up? No, actually, to be fair, let's go back to the sand pits because I was a bit like, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? Then I saw Chris Paul go down. I was like, oh my gosh, is Chris Paul dead? Is he actually dead? He can't really go out like this. Then obviously he got
That
saved
was
a
the
little bit,
first
but you
time
kind
I
of know what's
realized just
going on
how
as well.
dark this episode was going to get. I thought that was it for like I didn't realize Cristobal would, end the way he did. But at that point, I thought, oh no, Hank, wow, like he had no idea. I thought this would break Hank because he would kill Cristobal by accident. But then, if we just for a moment
Hmm.
go back to talking about Bill Hader's like filming and directing, use of sound, and this time the absence of visuals to just perfectly capture the darkness of being
Yeah.
buried alive. I was in awe because you really felt like you genuinely felt like you were with Cristobal potentially dying, and then you hear the sound of like Cristobal, where are you, Cristobal? I'm coming. And what I picked up in that scene as well
Hmm.
was when what Banky was saying in the episode one recording was about how Cristobal probably sees Hank as this savior because Hank literally went to
Hmm.
Bolivia for him. Yeah, Hank went to Bolivia for him and
Hmm.
killed a tiger or something and killed loads of people,
Yeah.
saved him from
Stabbed a
electroshock
hand, innit?
therapy, killed Elena. Cristobal probably feels protected and safe with Hank. And I was going to mention that similarity with Barry and Sally as well. And literally in that scene, you see that that
Hmm.
is true. Christopher does really love Hank, and he does see Hank as a savior, which is why in that moment he's calling for Hank, please save me. And Hank does do that.
Hmm.
But right then and there, the person he's looked up to as the savior is also now revealed to be like pure evil in his eyes. The same
Ruthless,
way
yeah.
Sally generally felt safe with Barry, then she realized what Barry was capable of, and she realizes, damn, he's evil. Like there's a lot of similarities
Hmm.
with what Hank is going through now and what Barry has already gone through with Kusano and Sally.
You're really going for, yeah. Yeah, that's a good shot. I mean, to be fair, like you kind of, it's black.
Mm,
It's a black comedy show, but it's still there's still that black element on where things can get
yeah.
really really dark sometimes. And kind of like, oh shit, I can't believe this is actually happening right now. And yeah, I mean, kind of towards the end, he had to, when they break up, and you sort of think, is he actually going to, you're kind of fingers crossed, is he actually going to let Crystal walk away? and live a nice peaceful life away from crime. Like, nope, he has already, um,
Mm.
well, his henchmen have already kind of finished him off, and that's the end of it. I wonder what happens to Noho Hank now in terms of does because he's literally the king of LA
Yes.
now, isn't he? So does it just become this ruthless,
Maybe,
kingpin?
maybe. But again, this is where we bring him back to Barry. Because for me, this was one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've seen in this season.
Hmm.
Because yeah, the way, like when he kept saying, "No, no, no, you don't understand. I love you. You can't leave." And obviously, we already heard what the elder had said. It was either Andrea or Barty. Was it Barty? I could bleep that too. But
Hmm.
like, the elder had already said, as long as you're part of our family, and then you see what Hank is saying, you're like, no. And then they close the door and you're like, shit. Because in that moment,
Yeah,
Hank is probably feeling the same way Barry did when he had to take out Chris. Because he didn't want to. He
yeah.
genuinely wanted things to work with Chris. But Chris, we knew.
But that's a fantasy that it
Yeah,
just
and it's the
can't
same thing
work, can
here
it?
because Hank is
Like,
also deluded in a sense. Cristobal, I have this in
hmm,
the notes somewhere actually. Let me just make sure I get it. Because Cristobal does ask him like what
yeah,
he thought would happen. Like he thought that he would do all this and Cristobal would just go along. Everyone is waiting to see if Cristobal would just go along with it. But like, what did you think would happen? And that's again kind of like the same delusion that Barry has with the people that he loves. That if they find out who he is, maybe they will still just accept it because his intentions were
hmm,
pure. No.
hmm, yeah. And what do you think? Do you think like the show would have much darker, um, like tone
I think it's
throughout the rest of the
possible
season?
because for one, it like this episode really just slowly degraded into darker and darker, and then we meet Jim. So what's happening there?
Yeah. What's Oh yeah,
Exactly.
because he's outside the house, isn't
So like
he?
I do feel
Oh
like
my gosh, I
we're
literally.
done with the dark. Like everything, all these scenes end on a very silent note. Um, Sally realizing Barry has escaped. Um, Jean shooting Leo. Cristobal dying. All of these things.
Everyone is
Exactly. And
just
that's why I'm
worse
saying like
off.
Hank has realized what he has to do, but I think it still gets darker. For I could be well, I hope I'm not wrong because it would make sense. Like I think it still gets darker for a lot of people. I'm worried again as well for Sally and Barry. Like, where are they going as well?
Yeah, I just don't really see. I just don't really see a
At
happy
this
ending for
point,
Barry. I'm
no.
not gonna
But we're
lie.
also seeing
These
like
next couple.
the fallout with all the other characters. It's more than sorry. It's more than the fact that Barry is a bad person. We're now starting to see all the other characters
Hmm.
deal with the fact that they themselves are bad people. Christopher literally
Yeah.
calls um what's his name? He literally calls Hank a psychopath at some point, and he's like, yeah, like it's the exact same. Like all the things you love me for are the things you're not calling
Hmm.
psychopathic behavior or whatever the word is, and even everything down to. Like this is what I mean, like with the similarities between Barry and Hank, it almost felt like they just lifted some of the things from Barry and Kusino early season three into this conversation with Crystal. Because then at
Yeah.
some point, remember when Barry brought Kusino to the set of that production and got him a role, and then he's like, "Mr. Kusino, what do you say? Thank you." And then Mr. Kusino's like, "Thank you," and it was like the exact
Yeah.
same intonation
Hmm.
with Hank saying, "Cristobal, our friends are leaving." Even everything where he's like saying, "I love you,
Hmm.
Mr. Kusino. I love you, Mr. Kusino. I love you, Mr. Kusino." At the start of this season, and Mr. Kusino is just there. It's the same thing. Hank is saying, "I love you, Cristobal," but Cristobal wants nothing to do with him, and that's what I mean. Like but Hank at this point is probably realizing in his journey to show how hard and not soft he is and how ruthless he can be doing the hard things to protect himself, he's
Hmm.
probably just like Barry.
They're more alike than they seem, which is funny
Yeah,
because like they had that phone call the episode before where they kind of sort of broke things off, or Hank, cut him off. But I feel like it's just things are going to all converge and lead them
that's
back
one thing. And
together in the next
every
couple of
single character
episodes.
right
And
now
yeah,
is at their worst, and it's just like I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess we shall. Guess we shall see. That's why I
Yeah,
watch the episodes, isn't it? But yeah, that was it. It was a good. It was a
very
good
dark
episode. It was a
episode.
dark episode, but it can't all be black comedy sometimes. And obviously, did that good thing of being entertaining, but obviously also advancing the story, which is kind of what we all
Hmm.
enjoy on the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. Yeah, I think we
Honestly,
can
yeah.
leave it there for Barry season 4, episode 4. It takes a psycho. I mean, yeah,
At this
everyone in this show is a
point,
psychopath, I guess. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Obviously, anyway, guys, don't forget to, rate, review, subscribe in all our platforms. We are really, really grateful for you guys, sticking with us with all our TV shows coming up, Succession, Barry, um, and all the other ones as well.
oh yeah.
Yellow Jackets, there we go. Yellow Jackets and Rain Dogs as well. I think those are like the 4 ones we have like coming up right now. And obviously, we have like more um, programs that we're going to be covering as well, coming moving forward. Yeah, that was Barry. I am I am Jibs, and yeah, thanks a lot, Jerry,
Anytime.
for coming through. And I guess we'll talk to you guys next week when we have Sydney
Oh, that's
Sweeney
new.
on the
Bye,
show.
guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.